Ebenezer William, John Wells, Alade, Hobbit Sam, all of them. We didn't go into the trenches. There was no struggle. I mean, there was no Joshua Ikobo situation. There was no Robert Mugabe situation. We were not in the trenches. We didn't even have long imprisonment like that of Kwame Nkrumah. We didn't have a 27-year Mandela imprisoned. So we got independent. When you compare with all those countries that I've mentioned,
And a platter of gold.
very, very cheaply. So it had no value to us. So we really didn't know what it was.
And is that why we appear not to take it, we handle it with reverence?
We would have if we had to fight the whites and they terrorized us the way they terrorized South Africa and inflicted apartheid on them. If we had to do that for 27, 28, 29 years, then we would have known the value of independence. But we didn't. So very, very quickly after independence, we lost it. At independence, yes, everybody was happy. I mean, we thought Nigeria would be the flagship of democracy in Africa. In fact, our Prime Minister was called the Golden Voice of Africa, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. Everybody looked up to Nigeria. I mean, we're better than Egypt, better than Tunisia, better than Indonesia, better than Malaysia, better than Singapore, better than Korea, better than Vietnam. At that time, we're at a higher level economically. So everybody looked forward to a country that will become the epitome of all that is best in Africa and that will tell the whole world that the black is good, the black is great, the black is powerful, the black is capable. But 2 years thereafter, things started to happen. And what happened? Collapse of the political system in the West, inspired by the center, intolerance of other political parties, trying to decimate, as it were, the action group, which was the opposition party, send the leadership of the action group into prison, ostensibly for treasonable felony, tried to take over National Bank, created Midwest region out of Western region when there was a crying need for other regions like the Cross River Ogoja Rivers region, COR, like the Middle Belt. But because the West was in opposition, so they thought the thing to do was to show intolerance, to intimidate, to oppress. It is that led to a split in the West. It is that led to an enthronement of an emergency power. The federal government inflicted emergency power in the West. After the emergency power, those who were rebelling against the leadership of Action Group and formed another party were brought back. And of course, in this massive intolerance, we went on into elections that were rigged, massively rigged. 1964 federal election was rigged. It was boycotted in the East. It was boycotted in the West. But even people who had 10 votes, 100 votes, were declared winners in the West. Eventually, there was a political crisis, stalemate, because the president, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, was not ready to call in Tafawa Balewa and swear him as the prime minister because he didn't think that the election was fair. He didn't think the election was free. We were battling there with what we are still battling with today. Free elections after 61 years. So eventually, in the Nigerian way, they resolved the crisis and they had a federal government that did not incorporate the mainstream Yoruba. But the Yorubas hoped that there will be a 1965 regional election and they will be able to throw out the NNDP that had shown disloyalty to the main cause of the Yoruba. But that election was more than massively rigged. And the people revolted. Mayhem. What you called Operation Wete. Mayhem. Houses were burned. People were burned. The West became ungovernable. And that was the time to, in fact, have declared state of emergency. The federal government didn't. Because they were an accomplice. They were the instigator of the crisis. Rather than do that, they were calling a Commonwealth conference to discuss South Africa. When we didn't have democracy real in Nigeria, we were talking about South Africa. A few days after the conference, the military struck because they saw what was going on in the West, they saw what was happening in the Midwest, they saw what was happening in the East, and they saw what was happening in the Middle Belt. They saw that the army was being used to terrorize the thieves, the domers, the Angas, the guys, people of the Middle Belt, and they thought, no, this cannot be the democracy. So they struck. And that was the beginning of our problem.
Okay, now, Prof, from what you've just said, you seem to push the blame entirely on the government at the center.
At that time.
Which was populated by a lot of northern elements, if I may put it that way.
No. The government at the center was a coalition. It had the MPC, he had the remnants NNDP from the southwest, he had the NCNC from the east. So
the core power brokers were from the north. The NPC was the major party at the center.
It was the senior partner, but it needed the concurrence of the other partners.
Does that then not play into the hands of those who claim that the West has always blamed the North for the multifarious challenges that Nigeria has faced?
You see, there will have been no problem if there was not a decision by the NCNC, because they thought if they use the federal power to decimate the West, they will be the party to take over. The MPC was not in the West at all. Elections were between NCNC and Action Group. So the NCNC thought in its wisdom that if they use the federal power to unseat, to decimate, to fractionalize the Action Group, they being the closest rival, they will take over. They never foresaw the possibility of the splinter group from Action Group allying directly with the MPC. They didn't foresee that. So they had a short-term ambition. In fact, that was why they were able to create Midwest region. And when they created Midwest region, who was governing it? NCNC. So they had thought NCNC is governing the East, NCNC is governing the Midwest. If we create this problem as the closest rival
to the Action Group,
they will take over. Then they will control 3 regions and MPC will control 1 region. So you can see their own political calculation. They thought they were using the MPC without actually studying the capacity, the immense capacity of the MPC to manipulate the situation to its own advantage. So the West did not start complaining about the North. When they complained about the federal government, it was obvious that a partner in the federal government was using the might of the federal government so that they can take over governance in the West. Don't forget that even as late as 1959, federal election, the Action Group won only 52.3%. So the SSC saw itself as a very close rival. So if we destroy the Action Group, we'll take over. Then we'll control 3 regions. Then ultimately, in their own wisdom, which had turned to be lack of it, they thought they would take over Nigeria.
Now, there's an argument that has always been there. Because obviously, the way things are playing now, it is the South versus the North on the political scene. Especially with respect to, let the presidency move to the South. Oh, no. The problems we are having are from the Northern political establishment. But a particular school of thought has emerged, and the school of thought has been there for a while, arguing that the reason Nigeria appears to have problems, and the North believes that power is its birthright, is because the British, when they were leaving, tactically handed the reins of power over to the North, lording the North over the South.
Yeah,
Is that true?
That is the truth. The British never particularly liked the southern politicians. They came, they institutionalized, or if you like, they concretized what they met in the north. They call it indirect rule. They left the emirate system, the local traditional system. They left it and just ruled through the emirs. They didn't like the fact that they came to the south. They found Nnamdi Azikiwe, who had been trained in America and who had been in Ghana, who had been publishing newspapers, and would not keep his mouth shut. They found an Awolowo who would not keep his mouth shut. And don't forget, these people have started party politics in Lagos. Party politics started in Lagos. Azikiwe, Awolowo, Herbert Macaulay, Ernest Ikoli, all of these people. So they had been exposed to the Western concept of democracy. They knew what it was to have democratic rule, and they were agitating. And the British never liked that. They never liked that these people were agitating. They never liked that they were writing newspapers. A powerful newspaper like Daily Times started in 1922 by Dr. Adeyemo. It was taken over by Alhaji Babatunde Joseph. And at the time, Daily Times was selling 450,000 copies a day. There was no newspaper that had ever done that in Africa. They didn't like that. And they had powerful columnists. Ebenezer Williams, who preached politics. Alhaji Odunewu, Peter Pan. These were radicals who were trained journalists. They knew what it was to set agenda. They knew what it was to report, to do in-depth reporting. So the British didn't like what appeared to be the troublesomeness of the South. They didn't like the fact that even in 1953, Anthony Nehru went to the House and said we wanted independence. And the North said, no, we didn't want independence. We are okay with the... And they had to be okay because it was indirect rule. In the South, it was direct. The British directly ruled the people. They destroyed the traditional institutions. They imposed the chieftaincy institutions in the East. They created in 1947 warrant chiefs for the East because they wanted to rule the East also the way they were ruling the North. And these were educated people. Dr. Mbadiwe is there. Professor Eninjoku is there. Quite a large number of them, they've been educated in America. They've seen American democracy at work. So the whites didn't like us. And they started manipulating with census. And this manipulation came because when in 1953, Nehru moved that motion of independence, the northern delegates and ministers walked out of the House of Rep. And when they walked out, the Lagos crowd started booing them. So they said they were going back. They were pulling out of Nigeria. That was the first threat
to secede.
To secede in Nigeria. It was bad enough.
And then Awolowo and then Nehru convinced them to stay back.
No, it wasn't there. It was the British. It was the British that appealed to them. Because Awolowo couldn't have appealed to them because the Secretary of the State, a white man, went on air and blasted Awolowo, accused him of infidelity, accused him of trying to destroy a constitution that was put forth in 1951. And without that disruption, there will not have been a little constitution of 1954. So they didn't like what Awolowo did. And Awolowo asked for a right of reply, and it was denied. Which was why, when there was opportunity for a new constitutional conference, he insisted that broadcasting must be concurrent. Which was why he set up WNTV, WMBS, and he did what he did, also with ENTV and EMBS. So they never liked the South. So, and the North now said, okay, for us to be part of Nigeria, we must have the majority in the National Assembly, and there were 312 seats in the House of Representatives. And more than half of that had to be given to the North. And you can't give House of Reps seats without having population. So they started a manipulation of population. You have the greatest threats to all population theory that I have ever had, from Matter's theory of population. I've never seen anywhere in the world where the population thickens away from the sea. I've never seen it in the world. Where the population thickens toward the desert. I have never seen it. And you need to go and study the population distribution in Nigeria.
But is Nigeria not a country that typically defies every known theory of knowledge?
It is so sad. But it was assisted by the British. And we have the evidence of Harold Smith, the book he had published, on how the British actively sabotage possibility of unity between NCNC and National Group, possibility of the Southerners working together, possibility of the progressive-minded people working together. They sabotage it. They financed the NCNC, the faction of the NCNC that was reactionary, led by Festus Okuti-Ebo, so that the progressive West, progressive East, progressive Midway will never work together. And they succeeded. Yes, I blame the British, but I also blame our own people. They cannot claim not to have intellect. Couldn't they see through? When they were offering Azikwe a titular headship of Nigeria, couldn't he see through it? That in the parliamentary system, the power resides in the prime minister, and they were kicking him upstairs with a deed. He was kicked upstairs as governor general. He became ceremonial president and had no power. And when we had democratic crisis in 1964, he found that he could do nothing. He had no powers at all. He was a commander-in-chief that could not call on the military commanders to do things. But he studied politics. He wrote politics. Azikwe breathed politics. So he cannot claim that he couldn't see through what the British was doing.
You think he deliberately played along with them?
I think, you see...
Or the maneuverings were too much for him?
I don't think so. It was just because they thought, and wrongly too, that these northerners, we are more educated than them. If we ally with them, we use them. Which was what they did. They thought they could use them. And I've told you, their intention was to control the whole of the South with the NCNC. So 3 regions out of 4. That was what they were hoping. But they were outwitted by the North, ably assisted and advised by the British.
So it does mean that the North, despite being disadvantaged in terms of Western education, is politically smarter than the South.
That's what I'm going to tell you. You see, the North, or the leadership of the North, were imperialists. Emirates system is an imperialist system. It didn't belong to the Hausas. It was brought by Osman Podium. He's a beautiful, and I respect him as an imperialist. And the British saw that. They were imperialists too, and they saw that all the other parts, they were not imperialists. And I'll give you examples. When they conquer the Hausa kingdom, they didn't destroy the kingdom. They just removed the king and put an emir. Okay? They left the people.
They left the people alone and the system.
Alone, and the system. They even went further to adopt their language. They speak their language with them. But they kept their own language only to themselves. That's vintage imperialism. But what would the West do? We had one of the largest empires that ever traversed West Africa, the Oyo Empire, that stretched from Nigeria to Benin Republic to Togo and to Ghana. But what do? You defeat a people, you cut away slaves, you cut away property, you come back to Oyoile, you left them. After some years, they will regrow and they'll fight you again. But these people won't do that.
They stay there.
They stayed there. They did it in Ilorin. Ilorin remains a Yoruba town with no Yoruba headship. You understand me now? So they are better imperialists than us. And therefore, the British found, a similarity in what they were doing with what they were doing.
Yeah, because they are also imperialists.
Yes.
Coming into another person's land.
Exactly. So power play has nothing to do with Western education. No. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with basic understanding of who gets what, when.
It's a chess game.
Where, how. Exactly. Do you need English to play chess?
I'll take a commercial break because I have Professor Farumbi here, sadly, for a limited time. And I have so much to ask him. I can assure you we won't exhaust this conversation this morning.
Yeah, we will come back.
Because I'm going to ask you to come again.
I will certainly come. I came out of respect for you. I came out of respect for the station.
And I
it was difficult for me this morning, but I had to be here.
We have 15 minutes more to go with Professor Farumbi this morning. I'll take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll dig that 15 minutes and try to maximize it as much as possible. I intend to engage Professor Farumbi on ideology. You mentioned how the Daily Times had very powerful columnists.
Absolutely.
And these columnists, surely, I've read about a few of them, were driven by ideologies.
Yes.
They were sound ideological basis for
Absolutely.
them. Especially coming from the angle of socialism.
Yeah.
And I intend to ask you questions about how ideology is lost in the political space and how we seem to have less of ideologically motivated journalists in the press today. Right after this commercial break, don't go anywhere.
32 FM 94.9.
Safa sapheli sizwe simnyama iwasafa.
Daniel Colenda is committee by the Nigeria. I will be there. You must be there.
Something great is about to happen in the city of Ibadan.
It's the Great Gospel Crusade with evangelist Rehad Bonke's successor, Daniel Kolenda.
This 4-day power-packed crusade begins from Thursday 11th to Sunday 14th November 2021. Time 4 p.m. daily. Venue Amsterdam, Wofolodo, Iwo Road, Ibadan.
There will be salvation of souls. The blind will see, the lame will walk, and barren wombs will open.
There will also be fire conference for all believers from Thursday 11th to Saturday 13th November by 6:30 a.m. at the same venue. Amsterdam, Wofolodo, Iwo Road, Ibadan.
The cloud of glory is moving again in the city of Ibadan.
Don't be told the story. Be part of this historic gospel crusade with evangelist Daniel Kolenda.
Jesus is Lord.
bá a ṣe láwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ dókítà tíṣẹ́yé bẹ́ẹ̀ náà la láwọn àwòrán-ṣàṣà mẹkáníìkì tí ò ní dákún sòrò ọkọ̀ sọ́kọ̀ dálùpùpù. GMF Auto Services Limited. bóyá tí ìdébẹ̀ wò ní ọ̀jẹ̀ mọ̀ pọ́nmọ́nàmọ́pa. àwọn erin lákàtàbù irinṣẹ́ ni ó diagnose mọ́tò yín kẹ́sẹ́ bí wọ́n ti máa fẹnu fapò sórí carburetor. wait and get ni kò ní lọ kábọ̀ tí machine bá ti ń discover problem láàmú fix ẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ kan. torí gbogbo original spare part ń bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ̀ bíbá. àwọn aláràlù àtàwọn aláràtúntà gan tó wá ń kó lọ́pọ̀ yanturu. ṣe rí pé gbogbo ń tẹ́ fẹ́ lójú kan ló wà.
Yes, so no go allow person wey no sabi damage your motor. Our services na consultancy, diagnosis, key programming, transmission repair, maintenance, spare part sales, plus plenty ogbonge things. GMF Auto Services Limited dey for number 3 Oni Lane beside White House Hotel behind Boys High School, Labawo, Ogunpa, Ibadan.
ẹ kọ́ pé wọ́n lórí aago náà kẹ́ ẹ mọ bó ṣe wà sí 08066348917 tó o bá fẹ́ kẹ́mi ọkọ̀ rí ogun GMF ni ó yàn láàyò.
ní ìdáhùn sí ìbéèrè ọ̀pọ̀ ènìyàn a ti sún ọjọ́ gbígba fọ́ọ̀mù àti di ọmọ onílẹ̀ lórílẹ̀‐èdè Canada síwájú o ní báyìí ọjọ́ karùn-ún oṣù kẹwàá ni yóò wá sópin o.
orílẹ̀-èdè Canada yóò fáwọn èèyàn tó lé ní mílíọ̀nù kan ní ìwé ọmọ onílẹ̀ láàrin ọdún 2021 sí 2023 ọ̀gọ̀ọ̀rọ̀ ohun àlùmọ́ọ́nì ilẹ̀ ló sodo sí orílẹ̀-èdè Canada bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ìbá díẹ̀ ni wọ́n ti ṣàmúlò láàrin ẹgbàágbèje ohun àlùmọ́ọ́nì ọ̀hún èyí rí bẹ́ẹ̀ látàrí ọ̀wọ́n ènìyàn tó ń bórílẹ̀-èdè náà fẹ́ra onírúurú ètò láti rìnrìn àjò lọ sí orílẹ̀-èdè Canada ló ti wà ńlẹ̀ ìwọ náà lè lo àǹfààní ètò àti kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ kó o sì máa ṣiṣẹ́ aṣáájú agbaninímọ̀ràn bá a ti rìnrìn àjò káàkiri àgbáyé ní Jonathan King Limited kàn sí wọn lónìí wọn ó sì fọ̀nà hàn.
gba fọ́ọ̀mù tiẹ̀ lónìí ní Jonathan King Limited ajakini àti ìkẹfà Cocoa House Ìbàdàn àti ní the Bronx Bookshop lẹ́bàá Saviour Cathedral níjẹ̀bú òde má gbàgbé ọjọ́ karùn-ún oṣù kẹwàá ní forúkọsílẹ̀ yóò wá sópin o kò sí àyè àfikún ọjọ́ mọ́ o.
egbògi kan ti délẹ̀ yìí egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ ṣe ni ó dára fẹ̀jẹ̀ gidi gan Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o. Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o.
ojú rẹ̀ ṣàǹjọ̀lọ̀ lójoojúmọ́ kí làṣírí ẹ wà rí.
Veneto cleanser ni.
já mi sí ọ̀rẹ́.
Veneto cleanser egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ṣe tí bádọ̀tí ara wọ̀ yá ìjà rẹ̀ wọ́n mọ́lẹ̀ ṣe wọ́n yẹbẹyẹbẹ. inú tó ń kú tó ń dàrú gbòdògbòdò kò bára rẹ̀ èrí inú ẹ̀jẹ̀. amọ̀nà ti dé o. Veneto cleanser egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ṣe tí a fi ewé àti egbò ṣe ní ọ̀nà ti gbàlódé. NAFDAC fòǹtẹ̀lù MA1 Nigeria Limited ni wọ́n gbé Veneto cleanser jáde. a wà ní nọ́mbà 17 ọba akínyẹlé off Adeogun Street Aláàfin Avenue Olúyọ̀lé Estate Ring Road Ìbàdàn telephone 08034051533 fún títà àti rírà ìwọ náà darapọ̀ mọ́ wa Veneton cleanser àmọ̀tẹ́kùn egbòogi tí ya gbogbo kòkòrò inú ẹ̀jẹ̀ wẹ́lẹ́wẹ́lẹ́.
When the people became silent,
the government became oppressive. It's time to lend your voice to politics.
On 32 FM 94.9.
Safa sapeli sizo simnyama Iwa safa Isizo saba Yamula mo Hani po kalize Wemaye wemodo.
Thank you for staying here. The program is The Podium on 32 FM 94.9. My guest today is Professor Yemi Farumbi, former ambassador, Nigerian ambassador to the Philippines. We've been talking for a while now. Prof, if you check the manifestos of the AG Action Group and that of the UPN, you come down to that of the AD. There are similarities. There are welfarist manifestos with a heavy dose of socialism infused into them. Also, if you check writers, columnists, journalists that were prominent in the political activities of these three political parties, they were ideologically sound. When you read their works or their columns, you could feel their ideological persuasion. But now what you find is that there seems to be a dearth of ideological convictions in the political space. Look at the major political parties, the All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party, which coincidentally or maybe by a stroke of fate, you also served with as an ambassador. Now, you seem to struggle. You struggle to find, okay, what exactly is the ideological mainstay of these parties? You also look at the journalism space, and then you ask, okay, what exactly motivates this person to write? What is the pattern you see? Is this one of the major problems we have? Or you also belong to the school of thought that says, no, ideology is not that critical?
Thank you so much. I think you have put your finger on the greatest problem of Nigeria. There was a drift from intellectualism into artisanship. we became anti-intellectual and craft conscious. We stopped enthroning intellectual concepts. And that was what led to a drift from an ideologically oriented political parties into what you just call a gathering to win election. What we have now are just vote gathering machines. The action group adopted as a philosophy democratic socialism. And this they translated into UPN and translated into Alliance for Democracy. But when they left Alliance for Democracy, that died. The NCNC adopted what Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe called Fabian socialism. None of the party really wanted hardcore communism. None wanted hardcore socialism. They wanted a socialism that would be ingrained, that would be suitable for our own society. The North was more like the Conservative Party of UK. But they also had this intellectual base. Ahmadu Bello was the intellectual powerhouse of the MPC. Kalu Ezera and all the others of the University of Nigeria, they constituted the power base of the NCNC. The Oluwasamins, the Aboyades, the Mabogunjes, the Odumosus, the Alukos, the Akitoyes, and all the like, who were at either UI or Ife, constituted the intellectual base of the action group. So knowledge mattered. But it doesn't matter any longer. Nobody cares. You just set up parties to win elections. There is no mandate. Even when they tell you, for example, the PDP, one of its 4 major points was that they would restructure Nigeria. I was a founding member of PDP, so I know this. But for 60 years, they didn't restructure Nigeria. One of the promises of APC is that they will restructure Nigeria. They even went ahead to set up a committee under El-Rufai. But they now tell you they don't know what restructuring means. So you know that they had no commitment to any ideology. They had no commitment to any principle. They were only interested in a vote gathering machine just to win. And this, of course, was also reflected, unfortunately, in the media. And why so? It was the economic base. Because it was becoming difficult anyway to even print. The newsprint imported, the ink imported, the machinery imported. It became so costly. And then, of course, the readership dwindled. I talked about 470,000 Daily Times. There's no newspaper that sells 25,000 today. None. Yes. All of them added together, they barely sell 100,000 copies. Of course, we know there's the challenge of the social media. We know there's the challenge of the convergence.
Which is a solid rival.
Absolutely solid rival. Unfortunately, not intellectual sometimes, not ideological sometimes.
Most times.
And most times, had no commitment to professional ethics. The balance, impartiality, objectivity, fairness, truthfulness, believability. They're not there. Social media is just fanning contemporary fad. Whatever is contemporary, somebody will sit in his room and generate a story that is not true. And all of that creates problems for the media. And now is the situation that the media cannot pay its own staff. For years now. It's not just that. And so what do? They expect the media people to find ways of paying themselves. How do they pay themselves? Then look for adverts, look for people who sponsor the program.
Or you align with political forces.
Or align with political
You do
forces.
their bidding.
So that you can operate. So if the politicians themselves are ideological, and you have to align with them so that you can operate, then you cannot be ideological. And that is disaster in Nigeria. The fact that there is no difference between the political parties. I always like to refer to the APC and the PDP as two sides of the same coin. So if the coin is fake, then the two sides are fake.
Absolutely.
And that is why you can be one party in the morning and another in the evening, and you won't lose a sleep. You couldn't just cross from UMBC, Joseph Taka's party, or cross from Aminu Kano's Talakawa party, NEPU or PRP, and just walk like that and say you have become MPC. It doesn't work that way. There are so ideological differences. You could see it in their preaching, in their manifesto. But that has gone. And so also has it gone in the media. And unfortunately, maybe not unfortunately too, we now have multiplication of media houses, which is good for us. We now have plurality of news stations. We have many stations, radio, TV, many social media, online, but they're all sounding alike. So there are no differences. 32 FM is doing something that is successful. And that station starts doing it. The third station starts doing it.
Duplicities.
And before you know it, all the 33 or 40 stations in Ibadan are doing the same thing. So the listener is not getting any diversity. Yes, plural, but no diverse. Newspaper review, they all do the same. You have hot interviews like this, they do the same. They see a musical program you're doing, they do
if I get you, Prof. Now, I seem to hear you say you're looking for a situation where we replay what obtained in the years back, immediately after independence, or even prior to it, where you had the press, the media in the West pushing for an agenda, and then you had the North pushing for an agenda.
Yeah.
The East was pushing for an agenda, and then you had a very healthy engagement,
and that was it. And that was what made the First Republic fruitful. They were pushing. When New Nigerian came, it used to be Northern Citizen. When it came as New Nigeria, it was pushing. Unfortunately, it hasn't spent 6 months before the crisis of military intervention came. But you had an Eastern Nigerian outlook. The East was known for agrarian revolution. Michael Okpara was an apostle of agrarian revolution. And that was what they were preaching. And the West was here, doing what Awolowo wanted, saying that give a commitment to optimum good for maximum number of people. That's what welfareism. You have to spread education. You have to spread health. You have to spread roads. You have to think of minimum wage. You have to think of those people who are going on pilgrimage and package things for them. So there was a heavy competition. So when University of Nigeria started, Easter started, Ife started, Abu started. When they started free education in the West, the East took it up. When television started here, a year thereafter, East took it up. 2 years after, North took it up. That was heavy. It moved the nation forward. But what do we have now? Everybody is enjoying.
If you did that today, would you not be tagged sectarian? I mean, if someone tried to create, to recreate what you had in the First Republic, would it not be tagged sectarian, seeing how far we've come with broken lines along ethnic issues?
We would not have had that definite break. I can tell you, Harun Adamu, for example, was a progressive radical columnist. And he was from the north. So the dividing line between progressiveness and conservatism was not based on ethnicity. It was based on what you felt. Aminu Kano was a people's man, Talakawa's man, but he was from Kano State. Kano is the most conservative when it comes to religion, but they are the most progressive when it comes to politics. That was who they were. Joseph Taka was not of the south, was Stevie, and part of his people were Idoma, and they were progressive. So it wasn't on ethnic lines at all. It was based on what you thought of the society, and we have to be able to go back to that. The North had the groundnut pyramids. They had textiles. Now all our textile factories are shut down because we don't have cotton. North is no longer growing cotton. We have to import cotton.
I must be faithful to Professor Farumbi to allow him to go at this time, because there is another assignment at 10 a.m. Prof, you've given me 9 minutes more than agreed, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe we should have you back before the end of this month. We have a lot to discuss on this issue.
I promise that I'll come back. I told you yesterday that I'll come today. I didn't promise I'll come back then. But having listened to you, having interacted with you, I think I would like to come back.
Thank you, Prof. And thank you for the history lessons. Your memory is very sharp. You brought back those events like they happened yesterday.
Yes, it's and we need to do this more often so that we don't blame people for what we should blame ourselves.
And that is why you're coming back, Prof.
Thank you.
I wish you a very beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
And happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And that was Ambassador Professor Yemi Farumbi. I had a very beautiful time with him. Did you too? Did you enjoy the conversation? Did you enjoy that engagement? You see the things we discussed? We're going to come back to discuss those issues. I tell you before the end of this month, because we're not letting them go away just like that. I'm going to engage Prof more on the place of ideological persuasion in politics. I'm still going to ask Prof about Femi Fani-Kayode's movement to the APC. And we'll touch a bit on the history of his father, Remi Fani-Kayode. There's been a lot of arguments about the similarities between the politics of these two. I'm also going to ask Prof what he did in the PDP, despite being appearing to be an ideologically sound person. What was his role in stabilizing the PDP? And is he still in the PDP? Then we will move to discussing what is the solution to Nigeria's governance issues. Is it secession? Is it restructuring? Or is it I'm trying to find the right word for it. Or is it sitting down to find another mode, another system of governance, another practice that is different from the democracy that the West has brought to us? That's a critical conversation we intend to indict on the podium going forward. Let's even see if we can evolve another system that works for us, one that respects our peculiarities as a people and as a country. I'm going to go on a commercial break. When I come back, I intend to play some parts of the President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari's Independence Day speech. You will listen to the speech, then I'll open the phone lines so you can share your thoughts. There are parts of that speech I disagree with. I think there were exaggerations. I think there were half-truths. I think we saw again the sectarian part of the president playing out in that speech. But I won't point to those areas. I'm going to allow you to talk. And then before I go, I will make my opinion known. Remember, it is my opinion, not the station's. And of course, I should have an opinion. Am I not a Nigerian? Commercial break now. When I come back, I'll play a song. That's a music break. And thereafter, play some parts of the president's speech.
32 FM 94.9.
Ìmọ̀lẹ̀ ní òkùnkùn parada. Ojú lọ bára Aba capsule. Ojú ni ìmọ̀lẹ̀ ara. Èdùmàrè má gbòdì ọ̀sán lọ́wọ́ wa. Àkànṣe gbòógì tá a fi mọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ṣe fún ìtọ́jú ìmọ̀lẹ̀ tí ò mọ́lẹ̀ kedere. Tàbí tó ń wò báyìí. Ojú lọ bára Aba capsule. Egbògi oníkóró ni NAFDAC ìlú ló ń tẹ̀ gbà. Authentic Clear Vision ló ṣe é. Ó wà ní chemist àti pharmacy stores lágbègbè rẹ̀. Ẹ tún lè ríra lọ́fíìsì Authentic Clear Vision. Tó wà business complex. Lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ Amidu Ajibade shopping complex Gate Ìbàdàn. Àǹfààní ńlá wà fún alágbàtà tó ń kó ní pálípálí. Ẹ pè 08061959663. Ojúlọ bára Aba capsule. Tí o bá sí àyípadà bó o ṣe fẹ́, tètè lọ rí dókítà rẹ o.
Ojúlọ bára Aba capsule. Ilé iṣẹ́ Authentic Clear Vision ló gbé jáde.
Ìyá Bímbọ́ ń sọ fún mi pé ọ̀rẹ́ rẹ̀ Bímbọ́ ti kọ́ bí a ṣe ń ṣe báàgì àti bàtà ìgbàlódé ó sì ti ní ṣọ́ọ̀bù ńlá kan ní Ògùnpa.
Ibo ló ti kọ́?
Ní Ìbàdàn yìí náà ni wọ́n ní Mastercard Foundation àti My World of Bags ló ṣètò rẹ̀. Wá níbo ló ń lọ?
Mo fẹ́ lọ forúkọ sílẹ̀ nìyẹn.
Wá lo fóònù mi jàre. Fi orúkọ, nọ́mbà àti ọjọ́ ìbí rẹ ránṣẹ́ sí 070-892-87992. Kọ́ iṣẹ́ ọwọ́ kó o gbé ìgbésí ayé tó dára. Fi orúkọ, nọ́mbà àti ọjọ́ orí rẹ ránṣẹ́ sí 070-892-87992. Orúkọ, nọ́mbà àti ọjọ́ orí rẹ ránṣẹ́ sí 070-892-87992. Ètò yìí wà fún àwọn ènìyàn láàárín àwọn ọjọ́ orí méjìdínlógún sí márùndínlógójì tó lè wà ní Ìbàdàn fún oṣù mẹ́ta láti kọ́ṣẹ́.
Indomie welcomes you back to school. Have a session filled with lots of fun and excitement. Stay safe, stay healthy. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
Ó fẹ́ bẹ́gbẹ́ pé kó láwùjọ àwọn kòsíkòsí gbogbo ìgbà kó sì máa gbọ́ bùkátà pẹ̀lú ìrọ̀rùn. Ẹgbẹ́ alájẹsẹ́kù multilevel marketing cooperative investment credit society limited ladùnbáni mọ́tòṣì tí ń bá ní ìpínlẹ̀ ọ̀la nílànà káràkátà àwọn kò ṣeé mọ̀ ní ojoojúmọ́ bíi herbal food supplement àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Bẹ́ẹ̀ lè tó ẹ̀yáwó ọlọ́kan ọ̀jọ̀kan dúró dè ọ́ bó ṣe ń darapọ̀ mẹ́gbẹ́ alájẹsẹ́kù multilevel marketing tí gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá sì darapọ̀ mọ́ wa pẹ̀lú owó yín ó máa jèrè tabua lóṣooṣù. Bákan náà ni gbogbo ẹni tó bá dókòwò pẹ̀lú wa láti sin yìí ló máa gbẹ̀bùn fáànù jẹnẹrétọ̀ tẹlifíṣàn àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀. Èyí wà fájọyọ̀ bá a ṣe ń pín ọdún kan lóṣù October ọdún tá a wà yìí. Ẹ kàn sí multilevel marketing ní health concern building lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ MRS filling station nítòsí Bishop Phillips Academy Ìwó Road Ìbàdàn. Àtẹ̀kálẹ̀ iṣẹ́ wa ní Stanbic Bank building Niger West area Challenge Ìbàdàn pé 090-5000-4816 090-5000-4816.
Land of unity, land of peace. This may sound funny, but when I look around, that is what I see. Land of such ethnic and cultural diversity. A land so rich, giant of Africa, indeed. land of champions, land of the best. In the midst of the adversities, we stood the test. And through all the mess of these years, one day will come clean. I love Niger, I love the green, white, green. Oh, unity and faith. In the midst of the abundance, so many people know they enjoy the benefits of the plenty things we really get from under our soil. But I hope that one day we go change our ways so that for the future generation, Nigeria will be a better place. Join our hands, make we make our own cool. God bless this nation, God bless
Safasa pelisizo simnyama iwasafa isizo saba kavula mola hainiko kalize wemaye wemolo Safasa pelisizo simnyama iwasafa isizo saba kavula mola hainiko kalize.
All right, I promised that I was going to play clips from the president's, or I say sound bites from the president's Independence Day speech. Sadly, I cannot do that because of a bit of technical issue that I have, but I'm going to try to read some parts of the speech while you will react. Now you can write down the phone lines to call 070, or the phone numbers to call, 070 55949 and 080 97949. I'll take that again, 070 55949 and 080 97949. So I'll just take those parts of the speech that interest me and that may interest you in scatter bits, so to say. So here we go. The president says, in the northeast region alone, over 8,000 Boko Haram terrorists have surrendered to support our surge approach to fighting banditry. The Nigerian armed forces have recruited over 17,000 personnel across all ranks. Furthermore, I have also approved for the Nigerian police force to recruit 10,000 police officers annually over the next 6 years. Okay. I want to find another one. So, another part here. Therefore, as a government, we're ready to arrest and prosecute all persons inciting violence through words or action. Our resolve for a peaceful, united, and one Nigeria remains unwavering and resolute. I will find this. I'm so sorry. I wish I had the clip, but I'm going to take it this way. All right, here we go with these. It says the recent arrests. In fact, let me take it from the paragraph. I'm so interested in this one. All right, the president says we must all come out and speak against the lies being peddled. At this point, I would want to sincerely appreciate the large number of our traditional, religious, and community leaders, as well as other well-meaning Nigerians who, in their various fora, are openly spreading the message of peaceful coexistence and conflict settlement through dialogue in their respective communities. Nigeria is for all of us. Now listen to this one. Its unity is not negotiable, so says the president, and its ultimate success can only be achieved if we all come together with a common goal of having peace and prosperity for our nation. We shall continue to work on dialogue-based solutions to address legitimate grievances, but we remain ready to take decisive actions against secessionist agitators and their sponsors who threaten our national security. The recent arrests of Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Adeyemo and the ongoing investigations being conducted have revealed certain high-profile financiers behind these individuals. We are vigorously pursuing these financiers, including one identified as a serving member of the National Assembly. Take note of that. And there is another part. As we embrace the digital economy in Nigeria, we are fully aware of the prospects and the perils. Our policies have been developed to enable Nigerians take advantage of the prospects and avoid the perils of digital technologies. Social media is a very useful platform that has enabled millions of Nigerians to connect with loved ones, promote their businesses, socialize, and access news and other information. However, recent events have shown that the platform is not just an innocuous platform for information dissemination. Rather, some users have misused the platform to organize, coordinate, and execute criminal activities, propagate fake news, and promote ethnic and religious sentiments. I want to assume one of the criminal activities the president is talking about is the hashtag #EndSARS movement, where people demanded that he should go because he's running a failed government. I'm just thinking. So he says, to address these negative trends, the federal government of Nigeria suspended the operations of Twitter in Nigeria on June 5, 2021 to allow the government put measures in place to address these challenges. To address these challenges? I'm rather thinking to censure free media. So he says, following the suspension of Twitter operations, Twitter Incorporated reached out to the federal government of Nigeria to resolve the impasse. Subsequently, I constituted a presidential committee to engage Twitter to explore the possibility of resolving the issue. The committee, along with its technical team, has engaged with Twitter and have addressed a number of key issues. These are national security and cohesion. Please pay attention to that. Registration, physical presence and representation, fair taxation, dispute resolution, and local content. Following the extensive engagements, the issues are being addressed, and I have directed that the suspension be lifted, but only if the conditions are met to allow our citizens continue the use of the platform for business and positive engagements. I'm going to take two more parts or so and leave. There's a part of it I'm interested in.
simnyama iwasafa yavula moyo ayinkokhelize wemaye wemolo pasapasa phela isizwe simnyama iwasafa yavula moyo ayinkokhelize.
All right, another part of the speech. Unfortunately, as our food production capacity has increased, food prices have been going up due to artificial shortages created by middlemen who have been buying and hoarding these essential commodities for profiteering. To address this, I am hereby directing the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to rehabilitate the National Food Reserve Agency since 2015. And also work with security agencies, the Nigerian Commodity Exchange, and the National Assembly to find a lasting solution to these disruptive and unpatriotic hoarding activities. To further enhance food production, we have completed several new dams and are in the process of rehabilitating several river basin development authorities to enhance groundwater supply for rain-fed agriculture, as well as surface water for irrigation agriculture. Okay. The president is blaming middlemen again. I was not around in 1983, but I have seen documents that showed these presidents, as at that time the military head of state, blaming middlemen for the high prices of food items, commodity price hike. He was still blaming them. Okay. One more, and then I'll open the phone lines. Remember the lines to call: 080-97949, 070-55949. This is the last one I'm reading. A lot has been achieved in the last 6 years on many fronts: in infrastructure, social care, governance, Nigeria's image and influence in Africa. Wow. And the international community. I was going to ask Professor Farumbi on this, but I was going to ask him a question on this rather, but there was no time. The president says, but critics misdiagnose incremental progress as stagnation. Since coming to power, this administration has tackled our problems head on in spite of the meager resources. And he makes a daring statement here. No government since 1999 has done what we have done in 6 years to put Nigeria back on track. Okay. 080 rather 97,949, 070-55,949. You can call to engage. What are your thoughts on the president's speech yesterday? Good morning. I lost you. Please call back if you can. What are your thoughts? You listen to Professor Farumbi. What are your thoughts on his submissions? Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Oh, please call back again. 070-55-000-949 and 080-97-000-949. I'd love to hear from you. 070-55-000-949, 080-97-000-949. I've read a few paragraphs of the president's 37-minute speech. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. I can hear you. Your name and where you're calling from.
This is Kolawole Kasim from Ibadan.
Kolawole, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I think the point, I have 2 points to talk about. And the point where the president was calling himself, I think that was very bad. Yes, in some areas, he did better than some other people. Even though in those areas, you want to look at the debt that incurred, the overpriced meal that we have been bought, constructing way from Ibadan to Oyo State, to Oyo, to Ibadan, to Lagos for over $1 billion. Too much. To talk about even the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway that has not yet been completed for more than 7 years now. I think, though, if you look at it with what is available on infrastructure, they are better. Not that you have done well, I think between doing better and doing well. People need to understand that you can do better when you score to 100, and the person is the other person score is 0 over 100. So I think on that level, it is better. But where I want to talk about is where the president says the government does not talk with the federal government alone. That is the point I want people to look at the performance of government in Nigeria. The government does not talk with federal government alone. You don't expect federal government. Federal government is the only one that collects your money. Your state governor collects most of your money. In fact, 80% of your money is collected by your state governor. So there's going to be more development. You should expect more from your state governor, not from the federal government. It may not be valid tomorrow. It may be another tomorrow. Let's make sure that it is the state government. If you look at the that money goes, all this money, who collect the money, what they get from the federal government, what they get as local allocation, and what they get as the IGR, you will discover that at the end of the day, the state government collects about 10% of the whole revenue of this country. And yet, you will not see major development coming from the state government. The federal government are around of that. The federal government, for example, you see what they are doing in agriculture. Your state government allocates agricultural budget. Where is it? Where is it? 7 billion every year. Where is it? It was like that. And you have farmers fighting one another in the state. Where you have state government that can that money has to be to the two farmers, to the herdsmen and the farmer fighting. Matter will be settled. You are fighting collecting money for them without doing anything. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Kolawole. That was a very nice one. Kolawole is tasking state governments or state governors and saying, look, don't just look, you guys should not just put it all on the federal government. What about the state governments? And I agree with you. I agree even down to the local government. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
All right, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from.
This is Ibrahim from Apata.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Please go ahead.
I so much appreciate for today because I'm a student of history and I understand it. I learned to speak today. So my first, I didn't have much to say about my president for now because all what he said, I've done better. I don't know what is called better, or I've done more than any government. If you have not done anything, I have not seen anything about security that can say kudos to you. Kudos to you on security. You've not done anything for me. You have not seen any federal government industry in my state. I cannot say kudos to you because I want something. I need to use made in Nigeria, quality made in Nigeria, like the Nigeria where Cable was then. So, and on the Nigeria independence, I think, to me, I think our issue is like we are being racist in some area because I've been hearing this for long, like indirect ruling, direct ruling in some northern and NCP or NCC, all these things. You know, I'm not in that era. So it's only those professors that can explain to us. So I think, to me, the Hausa people from the Mansa Musa and the like, I think they already have the Emirates from the Emirates, the Borno Emirates and the like. I think they already have Emirates. So they already have government. They have the counting. But we here, I'm so sorry to say, we have some borrow, like one meji, and we know where one starts and when one starts, and when it starts. So also to say in some areas that I've been when I was studying the history of Nigeria. And when Baba was talking, maybe when Baba comes again next time, by God's grace, I want to know, is there anything like manipulation in all these things? Like maybe there are some sects of people And we always hear Nnamdi Azikiwe, Awolowo, Tafawa Balewa. Who are behind Awolowo? Is it only Awolowo because one person is called that bullshit?
Okay, Ibrahim, I have to let you go now. No problems. When Professor Farumbi returns, you can have that conversation with him. I'll take another commercial break. When I come back, you can call. Let's engage. What do you think of the president's speech? I'll give you my own opinion before I sign out this morning. Commercial break next.
32 FM 94.9.
Ìbàdàn kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀? Ọ̀gá alátuntun bímọ ti dé pẹ̀lú àtúnṣe ọ̀tọ̀tọ̀ mẹ́rin lórí ọ̀rọ̀ ètò ìrìnnà nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́. Ṣó jáfáfá? Bẹ́ẹ̀ni. Ṣó fini lọ́kàn balẹ̀? Bẹ́ẹ̀ni. Ṣó dùn wò lójú? Bẹ́ẹ̀ni. Ṣó wo oore òfanilápò ya? Bẹ́ẹ̀ lórí. Ẹ̀yin ará ìlú Ìbàdàn, ṣé bọ́dà yín ti dé o? Jẹ́ ìgbádùn ìdá ogójì nígbà tó bá ń ṣe bọ́dà lóṣù yìí. Ìwọ kàn dáńlódù ṣé bọ́dà app lórí Play Store rẹ láti jayé ọlọ́ba falafala káàkiri ìgboro. Ṣé bọ́dà ṣe ọ̀kadà.
Egbògi kan ti délẹ̀ yìí, egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ ṣe ni ó dára fẹ̀jẹ̀ gidi gan. Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o. Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o.
Ojú rẹ̀ ṣàǹjọ̀lọ̀ lójoojúmọ́ kí làṣírí ẹ wà rí.
Veneto cleanser ni.
Jámi sí ọ̀rẹ́.
Veneto cleanser egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ṣe tí bádọ̀tí ara wọ̀ yá ìjà rẹ̀ wọ́n mọ́lẹ̀ ṣe wọ́n yẹbẹyẹbẹ. Inú tó ń kú tó ń dàrú gbòdògbòdò kò bára rẹ̀ èrí inú ẹ̀jẹ̀. Amọ̀nà ti dé o. Veneto cleanser egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ṣe tí a fi ewé àti egbò ṣe ní ọ̀nà ti gbàlódé. NAFDAC Fòǹtẹ̀lù MA1 Nigeria Limited ni wọ́n gbé Veneto cleanser jáde. A wà ní nọ́mbà 17 Ọba Akínyẹlé off Adeogun Street Aláàfin Avenue Olúyọ̀lé Estate Ring Road Ìbàdàn. Telephone 08034051533 fún títà àti rírà. Ìwọ náà darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. Veneton cleanser àmọ̀tẹ́kùn egbòogi tí ya gbogbo kòkòrò inú ẹ̀jẹ̀ wẹ́lẹ́wẹ́lẹ́.
Safa sapeli sizo simnyama Iwasafa Isizo saba Yamula mole Haimiko kalize Wemaye wemodo Safa sapeli sizo.
All right, 070-55,949, 080-97,949. I'll read some comments on Facebook. I have comments on Facebook. Michelle, I don't know. Is this Mitchell? Good morning, boss. Good morning. Mutaira Ayuade says, well done. Well done to you too. Okay, Mutaira, we addressed your concern at that time, I believe. MCI's nice one. Olaya Kende says, well done, sir. Omotolani Oladujoy says, good. Abiodun Falae says, our country deserves good leader. We need good leaders to manage our challenges. Oluwaseun Tetega, kudos for doing a great job. Thank you. Dari POP, well done, sir. Thank you. Oloye Omoye Yakumi, Professor Farumbi, long may you live, sir. Joy Timitokwe, well done, sir. Okay. Oloye Omoye Yakumi says, yes, ideological commitment is long lost in the Nigerian polity. Oloye Omoyakumi again says, brown envelopes drive journalism these days. Journalists are only after their meals, not journalists like us here. 32 FM is not one. They write what suits their bankrollers. Mayomi Oluwole writes, nice talk from Dr. Yemi Farumbi. That should be professor. Dari POP writes, that's it. So that we don't blame others for what we should blame ourselves for. I remember Professor Farumbi saying that as his parting shot. Alright, you too can call the station. You can have a conversation with me. 070-55,949 and 080-97,949. What do you think of the President's Independence Day speech? What do you think of the submissions made by Professor Yemi Farumbi earlier today? What do you think of those engagements? Perhaps let's talk. Grab a seat. Did you listen to the speech yesterday? Or did you read it? Did you read the transcript?
Yes, I read the transcript.
Did you agree with everything the president said?
Well, to a large extent, the first thing I noticed is that he had to say those things because it was Independence Day. And so as the president, he had to address the nation. And so it was very important that he said most of those things he said. Well, but to a large extent, I did not agree with most of the things he said.
Tell me some of the things you disagreed with.
Well, I would like to start with the issue of insecurity and security, as the case may be. I think for a long time now, Nigeria has had to grapple with the issue of insecurity on all fronts: banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, and so on. And so I think the president has not done well in that respect. I think coming out to tell us that over 8,000 Boko Haram members have surrendered in the last 1 year or so, I think we need to question how they arrived at those figures. And if indeed over 8,000 Boko Haram members have surrendered, of what effect has it had on the security situations in the country? Because he himself, he agreed to the fact that the security situation in the nation is pathetic. He was very, very in agreement with that. And so what happens to the daily kidnapping of citizens of Nigeria? What happens to the fact that we have to be fearful traveling on our roads and so on? And so, of what effect has the over 8,000 Boko Haram members that said has surrendered, of what effect has he had?
And the question is even, who is prosecuting them? Are they being prosecuted?
I think the body language of the president and the presidency for a long time has moved away from prosecution of criminal offences, especially by terrorists. They prefer to rehabilitate them and they send them back into the society, notwithstanding the heinous nature of what they have done to us. And so they are not concerned with prosecution. They just want to rehabilitate them. And so that is why you can find the president telling us that over 8,000 have surrendered.
Can you rehabilitate terrorists? Can you really rehabilitate terrorists? Because the argument on the comparison of Boko Haram terrorists or repentant Boko Haram terrorists, as the government likes to call them, the comparison with the repentant Niger Delta militants, this argument continues. Can you rehabilitate a terrorist?
I think people who are pro the radicalization of terrorists, Boko Haram terrorists, have missed it for a long time now. Comparing the Boko Haram scenario with what they call them, the militants, Niger Delta militants, I think it's out of point. At some point, we agreed that, of course, the Niger Delta militants constituted security threats to Nigeria, and so they were bombing facilities and so on. But we could see that they had a direction. They had demands, economic demands, societal demands, and we could see that even the Niger Delta area at that time was suffering from a lot of environmental degradation due to oil exploration and so on. And so some people could want to cut them some slack and say, okay, these guys are. But for what is the direction of the Boko Haram fighters? Do they have any direction? And so why should you even compare them to it is just like two lines that can never meet. These guys are just destroyers who continue to kill people without remorse, and so you cannot compare them to them. You cannot de-radicalize them. You cannot rehabilitate them. These guys will just come to society and continue to do what they know how to do.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, this is Kazri Kolawale from Okebadan. I just want to inform the speaker that he got things wrong. Boko Haram too has a direction. They want Sharia law announced in the other states. They also have it. And it is totally those who are for rehabilitation that didn't get it wrong at all. You see, you feel like your science has gone beyond what you think. It is knowledge of psychology, all this stuff. The military must have protested a lot. In fact, China now has some millions of Muslims that they have camped within the China trying to orientate them towards Chinese distance. So I don't think that is the problem. The problem is I think what we need, if that system, if it will be the one that will bring solutions to this problem, I think the government should allow the government to go by it.
Okay, Kazim, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
In which parts of the world have you found terrorists who are persuaded by religious ideologies de-radicalized?
I don't think it's China right now. Didn't I?
No, you can't. Can we really compare China with? I'm coming. Kazim, hold on.
My time is now. Maybe I'll call you back. Okay.
Kazim, if you're running comparisons, you must compare apples with apples, oranges with oranges. Now, the China situation, you do not have terrorists bombing places, burning up people, setting up their own flags, saying we are taking charge of this place, we are annexing this part of a sovereign state, all right, as an Islamic state. So that's why I'm asking. In places where you've had this situation, can you really de-radicalize them? Can we really compare? Can we really compare the economic demands of Niger Delta militants with?
Let me explain this. See, this brain is the same thing. The same brain you have is the same brain I have. So whatever information that is into that brain, it can be improved. Just an information. What we have, we are just a piece of information. We need to understand that we have this knowledge of science has gone beyond what we think it is. So the same information, if somebody has a memory loss for it.
Okay, I lost Kazim there because I was going to allow Kazim land and then remind him that sometime last year we had, the news broke of some of the seemingly repentant Boko Haram terrorists returning to camp. I hope Kazim read it. Now, some of them actually came, pretended like they had repented, and then came into the city to source intelligence, and then they returned to the trenches with their comrades. Okay, I hope Kazim calls back. I like to engage Kazim very well, and we should have some more engagement. Thankfully, we've been able to defeat the technical challenge we have. Now, I want you to hear it from the horse's mouth. Major General Muhammadu Buhari's presidential Independence Day speech yesterday. We have clips for you. Please listen.
For 1st of October 1960 to happen, all hands were on deck. East, West, North all came together to celebrate freedom. Today should not only serve as a reminder of the day the British handed over the reins of power to Nigerians, but also unified Nigerians from all ethnic groups, religions, and regions. Today, despite the challenges we face, most Nigerians still maintain the spirit of 1st October. That positive outlook and determination to make Nigeria a peaceful and prosperous nation. It is due to this collective attitude that Nigeria definitely continues to remain a united and indivisible nation. Fellow Nigerians, the past 18 months have been some of the most difficult periods in the history of Nigeria. Since the Civil War, I doubt whether we have seen a period of more heightened challenges than what we have witnessed in this period. Our original priorities for 2020 were to continue stabilizing our economy following the deep recession while restoring peace in areas confronted with security challenges. But the COVID-19 pandemic and its devastating impact on all nations meant we needed to shift gears and re-strategize. Nigerians came together as one to fight against COVID-19. It is this attitude, and by the sufficient grace of God, we continue to survive the pandemic as a nation, and indeed provide leadership and example at regional and international levels. The doomsday scenario predicted for our country never came. Even as the Delta variant continues to spread, we have built the capacity we need to respond now and into the future. I will therefore appeal to Nigerians not to take COVID lightly. Adhere to public health and social measures. Put your mask on and get vaccinated. We can control this pandemic, but it requires effort on everybody's part. The investments we made in the response to COVID-19 will also serve our country to tackle any future disease outbreaks or pandemics. Despite the global inequity in access to vaccines, the government of Nigeria has continued to explore all available options to ensure Nigerians have free access to safe and effective vaccines. Some 5 million vaccine doses have been administered to Nigerians through efforts led by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and we will continue to explore options for purchase or acquisition of vaccines, such as through COVAX and the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust. I will take this opportunity to remind the global community that the current state of access to COVID-19 vaccines is unacceptable. We cannot afford a situation where a handful of countries keep the global vaccine supply to themselves at the expense of other nations. We must act now to accelerate equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. This is the message I conveyed to the international community in New York last week. As we wish to source vaccine for our immediate needs, we shall invest more to support our pharmaceutical and research agencies to come up with ideas for locally developed vaccines. Should another pandemic arise in the future, our question is simple. Will Nigeria be ready? Accordingly, I have directed the Ministries of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Health, Education, Science and Technology to work with Nigerian and international pharmaceutical companies and research organizations to enhance Nigeria's domestic pharmaceutical capacity. Already, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority is raising a $200 million United States dollars fund for this initiative that will complement the Central Bank of Nigeria's ongoing 85 billion naira healthcare sector research and development intervention scheme to support local researchers in the development of vaccines and drugs to combat communicable and non-communicable diseases, including COVID-19. Fellow Nigerians, this is just the beginning.
Safasa pelisizo simnyama iwasafa isizo saba yamula
All right, that was the first part we got out. I may not be able to get the rest of that speech out. 070-55,949 and 080-97,949. Good morning.
Hello. Yeah, this is Kola Ole from this Kazim from Mokebado.
Okay, fine.
This brain that you see is just your computer that you can take do certain things to format. It's nothing but it's and
The line is breaking, Kazim. I can barely hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
The line is breaking.
Let me call you back.
Okay, please. 070-55,949 and 080-97,949. You can drop your comments on Facebook or YouTube at 32FM 949 Ibadan. Yes, Kalawale, you're there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, yes. What I was saying before, someone like me, I'm an atheist right now. If you knew me before when I was practicing Islam, if somebody who knew me when I was doing my university, he will tell you that if somebody happens to meet somebody who know me now, will say, Kolawole is an atheist. That person will be slapped by that person. Okay? So human beings actually can change their minds based on the kind of information they have at hand.
Okay, Kolawole, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So, when you were practicing Islam,
yes, yeah, I'm listening.
Now, did you have the capacity to carry bomb and blow up a town? Were you radical to that point? I'm just coming. Were you radical to that point?
I wasn't, but I was a supporter of ISIS.
I get it. See, there's a difference.
I was a supporter of Sharia law.
Okay, now you know the thing. Okay, let's draw some lines, okay, or let's create some patterns. Now, there's a difference between you supporting and you being what those guys are. That was why I asked, did you have the capacity, did you have the mind, or could you have worn a bomb vest, all right, and entered into a hall of residence in your school to blow up the place? Or, if I may ask this way, were you at any point taken into a sort of seclusion and actively radicalized through manipulative teachings, what do you call it now, mental exercises, to see yourself different from people? I mean, look at others as lesser humans, including those of your religion, because we need to understand where these guys, what these guys go through.
I understand what you are saying. What you are trying to say is that you are talking about the degree at which somebody is being
the degree of radicalization. Yes, because before I have read a few things. I have read a few things on reversing radicalism, all right, and I understand that. Now, if it takes 2 years, all right, to radicalize a man, you're going to need more than 10 times of that to actually de-radicalize him. So, and that takes me to the question of what processes are we going through? If you say 8,000 people have surrendered,
I think the question we need to what we need to understand, as I have explained to you, that if you want to, there's methodology by which you can remove certain information from body, brain, and change it. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, are the security officers, are they using the right technology, the right methodology to radicalize them? I don't think the degree of one that you are being radicalized has anything to do with whether you can be radicalized or you cannot be radicalized.
Really?
We know how the brain we know how the brain works.
But did you read the news?
Information from the brain.
Did you read the news late last year?
Wait, sir. Do you know that you are what you are because of the kind of information you have? Do you know that, sir? You are what you are because of the kind of information that you have. The moment you have more information within the brain, your attitude is going to change. And the more information you have, the more your attitude will change.
That's for somebody who is willing to yield. Because there's also the place of willingness.
That's not how it works.
That's how information works. Information may not change you. Information may not change you.
If I put you in a secluded area, for example, and I begin to feed you with certain information, and I don't allow certain information to come into you, before you know it, you get acclimatized to my information. That's why some people will say, you see? So I think if without time, I will have there are so many. I'm literally even writing a book on something like this right now. So
okay,
it's so simple.
Kazim, now
we know how information works.
This brings me to the next question I want to ask you. Did you read in the news late last year of scores of repentant Boko Haram fighters who returned to the trenches? Did you read it in the news?
I think I didn't read it, but I've heard some people making those claims. You know, Nigerian news is somehow very difficult. But even if that happens, sir, are you listening to me, sir? Even if that happens, you know, in science, there will be some intervening variables that will happen. If you have 8,000 people and you have like 10 or 100, you see that got wrong. If you have done something remarkably well in psychology, you are not expecting 100% accuracy. So and the essence of this people surrendering is to make sure that is to end war, is to make sure that we don't have more casualties. Because if these 8,000 people want to go all out, okay, these people are going to punish me or they are going to kill me. They also want to go all out. They can keep more 10,000 people. So in order to save more 10,000 people, if you radicalize 8,000 people, I think it is more logical that should be the best way to go.
Okay, I think we will take up this conversation of how easy it is to de-radicalize radicals. And then I'm coming, Kazim, hold on, Kazim. Before you say it is very easy, Kazim. Now, because you know it is an intellectual discussion. We can't work with assumptions. We are also going to have to get. We are also going to have to source. We're also going to have to source data, right, from what has been done in developed nations. What is the approach of developed nations to handling radicals? Do we have proofs? That radicals can be de-radicalized, especially when they've been at the business for more than 10 years?
Okay, let's put it this way.
Okay, sorry, Kazim. That was not me. That was a network. We're going to keep that conversation on ice. Perez is going to take note of it. De-radicalizing Boko Haram radicals. Is it a myth? Is it a farce? Or is it a fact? I'm going to get, in the coming days, we will work on getting professional psychologists, psychoanalysts, and then security experts. So in the studios, we'll ensure that, please, Perez, you need to take note of that. We'll ensure we get at least one psychoanalyst, one psychologist, and then one security expert to discuss the process of de-radicalizing radicals. We'll get people who will help us address this. I think I'm interested in this subject. I'll take a commercial break. When I come back, I will tell you my opinion on some of the things the president said in his speech yesterday. Don't go anywhere.
32 FM 94.9.
By popular demand, registration for Canada Permanent Visa Program has been extended till 5th of October 2021.
Canada will issue over 1.2 million permanent visas between 2021 and 2023. Canada has incredible natural resources, most especially mineral resources, but less than 15% of those massive resources have been exploited. Reason? Canada's population is very small, less than 40 million compared to USA's 350 million and China's 1.6 billion, and these are countries with smaller land area than Canada. there are well over 60 immigration programs to choose from. Let Jonathan King Limited take you through the simple process and relocate to Canada with members of your family. So take advantage and obtain your own form at Jonathan King Limited, 1st and 6th floors, Cocoa House, Ibadan, CMS Bookshop, Falagbade Street, beside the Cathedral of Our Savior, Ijebu-Ode.
Remember, before 5th of October 2021, there is no further extension.
Earlier I played God Bless Nigeria by Nosa. And now this is Great Nation by Timi Dakolo.
With one sound, with one voice, we're a nation undivided and poised.
I think it is very hypocritical for the president to refer to having uncovered the financiers of Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho, while his administration has continued to insist that it will not name the financiers of Boko Haram. I think it speaks of deliberate culpability if this presidency will continue to pursue those it calls secessionists from the south, notably Sunday Adeyemo, also known as Sunday Igboho, and Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB, while they close their eyes at Boko Haram, an organization, a terrorist organization that has not only continued to kill and maim people up north, but has also continued to hoist its flag in communities that it has ransacked. Recently, the chairman of Sororo local government in Niger State said 500 communities have been taken over by Boko Haram, and that this evil organization has hoisted its flag in those communities. The president said not a word about that position. Yet you are going after those you call secessionists in the south. But Boko Haram is also hoisting flags, foreign flags. Yes, the flag of an Islamic state, effectively declaring secession in those areas. Yet you take 8,000 of them, according to you, and you say they are repentant, they are not going to jail, and you say you are rehabilitating them. It is a shame of a country. For me, Ezekiah Akinride, I really don't care what people think of me as a journalist when I take positions like this. Whether you agree I'm a radio man or not, you say I'm ethical or not, I have an opinion about what happens in my country because I'm a Nigerian. I'm not a foreigner. I'm not a Nigerian. I do not have the bloodline of a foreign nation in Chad or Niger flowing in my body. I'm 100% Nigerian. It is hypocritical for a government that has continued to handle with kid gloves the issue of Wadume. Do you remember Wadume? And this super kidnapper, what's his name again? Do you remember that guy? Evans. We don't know where Evans is. Nobody's talking about Evans again. Nobody's talking about Wadume again. But once there is an issue in the south, you go all out. Vuvuvu, Bruce Lee style. Meanwhile, up north, you treat these issues with kids' gloves. Where are the financiers of Boko Haram? It was very easy for the central bank to locate the sources of funding for the hashtag EndSARS protest. But till tomorrow, the same central bank has not been able to locate how funds are funneled to Boko Haram. It is hypocritical of this government, of the president, to say that the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable when the government has done virtually everything to tear the very intricate fabrics of the unity of this nation to pieces. Who are you to even say the unity of a country is non-negotiable? The people should decide. A popular government should not be afraid of referendum. Have a referendum. Let the people vote whether they are staying together or they are not staying together. Who says unity is compulsory? Who says staying together is compulsory? We may not be together, yet we are united. After all, they call something the United States of America. How about making a commitment to discussing and reworking the structure of Nigeria, as it were? I think it is hypocritical of the president to blame the rising prices of food on middlemen. You did it in 1983 or 1984, and now you're doing it again. You blame middlemen for what should be your responsibility. Has this government done fine in some areas? Absolutely. I will say yes. I love the railways. I love the trains. I rode on the train from Lagos to Ibadan, from Ibadan to Lagos, and Lagos to Ibadan. And I have written on that on my Facebook page. But I do not agree that this government has done far better than any other government since 1999. That is a farce. That is a farce. It is not true. Somebody should speak the truth to Mr. President. We hope that when he's going to have the New Year message, if he has any, January 1, 2022, it will not be the same old song of we are better than those who have gone before. It is to tell us what exactly you have done and prosecute those Boko Haram terrorists. Be very bold to come out and call them what they are. Don't call some secessionists. Don't call those who unsettle national security, while you find the less disparaging terms with which you describe those who trouble the peace of the North. Be the president of all. Stop being the president of a part. And that will be the program today. My name is Hezekiah Oluwaseun Akinrinde. Special thanks to everyone who joined me on Facebook and on YouTube. Special thanks to everyone who called in. And thanks to my friend and colleague, Chike Ugbagu, who facilitated the program while I was away. I return to the airwaves 6 p.m. tomorrow with Gospel Cruise, and next Saturday a fresh edition of The Podium. Hezekiah Oluwaseun Akinrinde signing out this morning. Have a nice weekend.